Everyone, it being on or after 7 o'clock, I'm going to open up the April 19th, 2018 meeting of the Georgetown Conservation Commission. And this evening we have some business to address and actually several hearings to open. And we'll start off with some of the business items that we have. And we have some, let's see, minutes. We have some bills, I'm sure.
2 sets of minutes.
Okay.
February 22nd, which was already signed, but we forgot to vote on it, and the March 22nd, which needs a vote and a signature.
Okay, that's right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second it to approve the minutes of.
I need a motion.
How about,
Motion.
I'll make a motion and then you can
Yes.
second.
Oh.
Let's
Yeah.
make a motion to approve the minutes for February 22nd, 2018, and March 22nd, 2018.
We've got,
I'll second it.
we've got a motion and a seconded to approve the February 22nd and the March 22nd meeting, 2018 meeting minutes. Is there any further discussion? As Steve had indicated, we already had signed off on the, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining. And,
I can just run through a couple of other things, Carl,
Okay.
if that's okay. There's a request from Camp Dennison to do a little work on the bathhouse. So right now, if you're familiar down at Camp Dennison, the bathrooms off the main lodge, the separate building, has kind of a 3-walled structure to the side that used to be showers. The roof fell off 20, 30 years ago. It's just a concrete slab with walls. They want to put a roof over it and just do some construction project there to bring it back to kind of an outside bathhouse. It's outside of the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction, but it's one of those
Is-
things where it's an activity that you guys have care and custody of the land, and it should go through the commission, and I wasn't
funding,
comfortable with it.
funding-wise, do they have adequate
it's-
funding? Is this a CPC project?
It's
or-
cheap money. They're gonna do it internally, self-funded, with money they have from rental fees. So pretty much really, it's just putting a roof on it and plumbing it, seasonal plumbing, not freeze-proof. So, you know, it's a 2-3.
So you indicate it's outside of the 100?
Correct. It's outside of the commission's jurisdiction.
So
There's a
we-
river on the far
well,
side,
it's- Yeah.
much further from that, 1,000 feet from the pond, you know, so it's well out of the regulatory jurisdiction. But because it's care and custody, I think it's important for the commission to be aware of building projects, because it appears like it's new, but it's really just rehabbing something that was there before.
And you
Existing, yeah.
indicated it's an outdoor bathhouse.
I believe that's their intention, is to kind of make it like showers. Because right now, you know, the increased use of the camp, I think the facilities need a little help keeping up with
Because
the
they
people.
did a lot of bathroom upgrades.
They did that by the cabins, so they pretty much, you know, it's one of those, it would have been probably easy to tear it down and start over. They rehabbed the other bathhouse years ago, septic system, and that's up and running finally, and they did a really, really good job on that. That's pretty much done, but this is back over the main site, kind of where the lodge is.
Is this revolving fund
From that,
money
yep.
from their
Yep.
rental
Yep.
fees,
So this is
et cetera?
not CPC, this is not coming out additional money, you know, again, it's a cheap project. Scale, this isn't even worthy of coming to the commission, but it's a building project that will be noticeably different, because there'll be a roof on something there wasn't a roof on before.
Why do they need it? What are they using it for? A bathhouse?
Yeah, so
Is
it's
it a
it's
bathroom,
connected to the
or-
bathrooms, right?
Yeah.
So there's bathrooms there. This will be kind of like a little shower stall off of it.
Because there's no swimming or anything there.
No. But when they have overnight campers, you know, they have a lot of these overnight events. I think that's their thinking. You know, they've
So
had
they
a lot
want
of
them to be
requests.
clean.
Yeah.
So it's for the cabins, basically.
No, this is for the main lodge, because the cabins have their own showers
I
over
don't know
there.
anyone who goes to Camp Dennison for a shower.
Wedding parties?
I'm just,
Well, maybe.
I'm just bringing the suggestion to you guys.
Okay.
I'm not judging
Well-
one way or another. I mean,
Okay.
it's a fairly cheap, low-cost project. They're all doing it.
Yeah.
They're doing it in-house. The concrete slabs are already there, so there's no digging. It's the walls are there. They're just kind of rehabbing it up, putting a roof.
So in other words, this is essentially what it was before?
Correct.
So it's not really a new use, it's
Right.
just kind of recreating what was already.
But things will look different when you go down and you're like, hey, that roof wasn't there. Again, I just want the commission. It's almost more of an FYI. Obviously, you guys can say no. It's just more about like letting you know what's going on. There'll be some activity down
I
there.
guess they do have campers who stay out there, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So
Not
from,
always
from,
fun.
Dirty
the, from, the,
business
his- from the
camping.
historic perspective, I guess, you know, since it was already there, it's not like it's a completely
yep.
new
Just
use.
curious.
It's just, you know, rehabbing, rebuilding what was there from the historic.
And certainly they take such beautiful care of the camp. I mean, I wouldn't question their decision-making at all. I'm only curious.
Yeah, so I guess we should have a vote to authorize the construction, and I am assuming they need a building permit.
Correct.
Do they have one yet, or are they?
No, they're
working on
waiting. They're waiting till they get you guys' blessings.
it? Okay.
I'll give you the copy.
So I guess I would entertain a motion to authorize the rehab of the outdoor shower area at Camp Dennison. If anyone would like to make such a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the outdoor shower area at Camp Dennison. Construction,
Roofing.
roofing, rehab.
I guess probably rehab would.
Second.
Okay.
We have a
All of the
motion,
above.
and it's been seconded to authorize the construction/rehab of the Camp Dennison outdoor shower area. Is there any further discussion? And obviously that is contingent upon them getting a building permit and going through all the appropriate channels and plumbing codes and et cetera, et cetera.
And I sign off on all the building permits, any outside renovation in general, so even they didn't come to me, it would've gotten picked up on eventually. So,
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining. Motion carries.
we can open up Parish Road and then roll into the hearing where-
And, okay, it being on or after 7 PM, I'm going to reopen a notice of intent for 66 Parish Road, GCC 2016-21. That was a 10-lot subdivision on a 40-acre parcel. And no work was proposed within the wetland resource area other than riverfront, and where proposed alteration is less than 10% of the total riverfront area. Okay, and have we heard from the applicant? Are they asking?
They've been working with the planning board.
Yeah.
The plan has changed enormously. Originally, it was a wetland crossing into the back, wetland buffer encroachment, down by the road. They pulled it back to, I think it's, the main construction site's 100% out of the
And this is-
commission's jurisdiction.
Moving toward the OSRD concept?
Correct, so cluster coming back, I think there are 10 units. The back 20-plus acres would be donated as open space. We worked out some trails and parking for access for the public. Kind of an interesting angle on it, they were really trying to push the boundaries and put the houses closer to the clear and like the tree edge than I thought was reasonable. So we came up with an interesting idea to fix or to help with that problem. They're gonna create a meadow, and the association would be required to mow the meadow once a year. So wetlands are protected, a lot of these marshes are protected. The next kind of step.
And the meadow would be behind the
Correct, yeah.
development?
Yep,
It's in between the development and the wetland, is
Yeah.
that it?
yeah.
What's there now?
That scruffy, gnarly, nasty, thorny
Well, basically,
area.
what's that, the remnants
That was
of the
an
old farm field?
That was an old field that's
Was an
grown
old-
in.
Right.
Yeah, I've been there.
So they're not,
You
they're
mentioned
not cutting
forest,
trees.
so I didn't know
Yeah.
what the connection was
There's
there.
some pretty big trees in the
There,
back. There's
it's
some almost like
huge
old growth
as you're
forest back
heading
there.
down the
Yes.
hill towards the,
And none of
that
that
where
will
the
be touched.
bramble roses
None of that will be touched.
And
Correct.
bittersweet were?
yes.
Correct, yeah.
mhm.
So none of the actual tree, the old growth trees will be touched.
Oh,
They're pretty much bringing, if you look at like an aerial, you can tell where the old field was and it's starting to grow in. They're really bringing it back to the original edge. In one area where there's some like trees leaning in the direction of the houses will be in 10, 15 years, they're gonna be overhanging the house. We're gonna
And-
cut that and turn it into a meadow.
And there's-
Just like kind of habitat restoration, enhancement.
And
that
they're
kind of
still on
angle.
track for the, that includes the bridge rebuild?
Correct, yeah.
Because this was one of the early contentions from the
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
the
So-
first one that got denied
And
is
we-
they wanted to build it without redoing the bridge, which was in failure.
And the commission has permitted that bridge.
have.
Right.
I think I have to check on when it expires, but it's still.
That's kind of
probably good.
where I bring that up, because it
Yeah.
would be, we'd have to revisit that again.
I'll check on the date when that expires, just as a.
And they'll be hiring somebody professional to put in that meadow?
It's just, it's something different, I mean, just different habitat that we don't have much of.
so we're
in this
getting rid of
community.
an invasive, infested,
Yeah.
overgrown thing and
Yeah.
putting in an actual
And
wildlife
But it's obviously,
Enhancement.
valuable meadow.
it's
That's
still
awesome.
in, the project is still in process, so it makes sense obviously to continue
Yeah.
it, because we've been carrying this for a while,
Yeah.
but it is work being done, so.
So are they going to have to refile if it's changed substantially?
I think as long as it's changed substantially in a good direction, they don't need to refile.
Well, because we haven't voted on it. If we would have voted on it,
Yeah, it's done.
we would,
Oh,
so it's, cause
good
it's,
point.
it's still,
Yes.
you know, cause just like we
You're
could,
right.
we could
Yeah,
request them to make these changes,
The
so
TIDS
it's.
project was continuing for like 5 or
That's
6
true.
years.
We've seen a bunch of different
As long as it's
plans for that.
legally, as long as it's legally
You're right.
continued and you do the right process, it goes
Okay.
on for relatively forever.
So if, I mean, if they come back to us with a less impact project, obviously it behooves
Yep.
us to still, entertain that.
Mhm.
And since we haven't voted, you know, we can keep this going.
So I'm recommending June 21st to continue this to, at 7 o'clock.
First, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue 66 Parish Road, GCC 2016-21 to
June 21st at 7 o'clock.
June 21st at 7 o'clock.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to continue the notice of intent for 66 Parish Road to June 21st, 2018 at 7 PM. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Thank you. And, let's see, by my watch and by the clock, it is on or after 7:10 PM. I'm going to reopen a notice of intent for 91 Lake Shore Drive, DEP 161-0855. If I could have the applicant and/or consultant, and if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Rolf Andrews. I'm the owner of RLA Development, which owns 91 Lake Shore Drive.
Thank you.
I'll bring this up too. Just-
I'll give a quick overview on how we got
Right.
to here before we jump into the details.
Please do.
So last year, the commission approved a project for septic system replacement, some home renovations, removing some deck, creating more decks, some infiltration, the dock, you know, pretty much a rehab of the entire property because it had been, you know, let go for a number of years. They did the work, kind of, I inspected it as it went along. When they submitted the as-built, the deck configuration changed a little bit. It got a little bit bigger in the direction of the pond. Not massively bigger, not a huge deal, but to me, a difference that I can't just say, oh, it's close enough. You know, if it's within an inch, a few inches type things, I recommended to the owner that he file kind of an amendment. In this case, we just did a new notice of intent to kind of clean up the thing that had changed. So the deck got a few feet.
In terms of square feet, how much bigger is this? I mean, how,
I'll let him
Okay.
give his overview. I just want to kind of let you know,
Yep,
big picture,
yep.
kind of why are we looking at this again? It's the first thing you're going to say. It changed enough that I was not comfortable just signing it off as a COC. So when I do my COC inspections, nothing is built to plan to the inch. It's just not possible. It never happens. Typically, if it's a minor enough difference, I just say, yep, that's close enough, recommend approving it. The commission votes, signs off on the COC. In this case, it was just a little bit bigger because it got bigger in the direction of the pond. If it got 2 feet bigger away from the pond towards the road, it's like, it's not worth the hassle because it's a bit of a hassle to go. I mean, you know, this has been a hassle. We've been going back and forth for a month and a half on this. I don't like to do that to people unless I feel it's really warranted. In this case, it's reason. You know, the project's not unreasonable. It's just I wasn't comfortable signing off at the COC stage. So I'll let you kind of explain yourself.
Please do.
Thank
The
you.
first question is how much bigger is it? It's 36 square feet total.
I'm sorry,
36 square feet.
36 square feet
Feet.
total or?
Total
they in
addition.
More than it was before?
Well, that's kind of a odd thing to handle.
Okay,
So I don't know if you're familiar with the property and what it looked like before, but it was a disaster. And part of it was where the old deck was covered with debris and everything else, and we really couldn't get in and see what it was until after we got the permit to start the job to do the septic and all of those type of things. So we didn't disturb anything. And what we found was that what was there was A, over the property line, and B, a lot of the supporting structures to the stairs were actually nailed to the roots of the trees. So I dealt with the building inspector, because that's what I'm used to, and what we came up with was to pull everything. I don't know if you have this in front of you. I have the
Do.
pictures. We pulled the underpinnings of the deck quite a bit back, and this drawing, I don't know if you can see it or how I can hold it up, but This, the deck,
Can you take it off the mic? 'Cause
didn't even notice the mic.
Yeah, no worries.
So this deck, I've got the hash lines, that is where the structure is underneath. The deck is cantilevered. So
Okay.
that allowed us to get back away from this tree and deal with some of the issues we had underneath.
Are we looking at this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this tree is that tree?
This tree is that tree, correct.
And, when you say the hash marks, what are the hash marks?
They're the right side, see that 3 foot?
Yes.
To your right,
This?
that's where that hash mark is.
Okay.
Is where that structure is.
Uh-huh.
And then we did the same thing on the front. We can see the 2 propane tanks.
So was it
This is on there.
unsupported in a sort of L shape around the outside of
It
the
was,
deck?
this, I have an as-built, I don't know, I have an original, and, if I may, this is, I have 2 of these. Why I got them in a different type, I'm not sure, but I can pass that. That's originally what we had. That was actually done, and I have another one on this side.
So you were working with the building inspector on this too?
Yes. These, the drawing that you have there was originally done before I owned the property. It was done by the sellers. And then it was modified to do what we wanted to do. And we were dealing with the septic system, obviously. It was in front of the house, as you can see there.
Right.
That's what we went in for. We didn't know really what was under that deck. That rendering is kind of, what was it? And it was over the property line. There was in fact a wooden structure around this tree that had a fire pit in it. So the general consensus was if we were pulling the whole ground covering back, we were fine. We were making the deck smaller than it was, including the stairway that you see going around the deck. That was on the ground. That was what was attached to the roots and everything. So,
Can I just clarify?
Sure.
So it used to be that the deck was only on this side of the house, and now it's actually going around 2 sides of the house?
the deck, no, the deck is in the same place it was.
Okay.
May I?
The
Yeah,
deck,
please, I'm
Laura,
not-
the deck was huge, so you might be thinking the house, like the deck is the house.
Uh-huh.
The deck was pretty big.
Oh,
so-
okay.
The-
Right.
This is the deck. These stairs were around on the ground.
Okay.
There was a bunch, this is what we showed from the original when we found out all of this was covered. There was a bridge in it, there was some sort of like a river stone thing they had done, looked like for
Right.
water. So we basically started with this and tried to adapt it, and we ended up coming 2 feet further.
I see.
The reason for that is by getting the stairs up over, we needed the approach on the new drawing. Both of the drawings are in there also.
So this is this tree.
Pardon?
This
This is that
is
side.
this tree.
Correct.
Yep, okay.
And then that is this front here. So
Yep.
the stairs actually, the only way they touch the ground
If that's a new
is the pad on the bottom.
I see.
So
Okay.
we felt that was, and again, I'm going more on.
So where you should, you'd indicated that the original was over the lot line?
Quite a bit, yes.
I'm trying to figure out where that is on the.
I can show it
To
to
the
you.
south, Carl, to the south.
It's, that tree, that big tree,
Okay.
there was actually a fire pit in it, a wooden fire pit. Where am I? Right here? This here? This went out around that tree. We knew this part was here. And there was a fire pit in it, of all things.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, this was all covered also. The wooden ramp, you can see that coming over the line.
Okay.
And so, Carl, it didn't get any closer than what was already there. It was just that 30-plus square feet of kind of new deck, but the absolute distance to the resources didn't change, because they already had, on the
Right.
previous plan, showed that kind of wraparound stairs, so the absolute distance isn't any closer. And I think from the original as-built to this, there's also some discovered engineering, kind of sloppy engineering, which actually plays into his advantage. You know, they thought things were closer to the wetlands than they really were. So, you know, for kind of twofold, it's less of a big deal, at least, you know, based on my lens.
Well, in general, we like to be notified before than after, and I kind of understand a little bit how this happened, but, you know, it helps to kind of call him and say, hey, I got a problem, can you work with me?
I mean, we worked very well the whole entire project. They did some, restoration. They did a lot of other kind of things that we were communicating the entire time. I think there's just
I went
stuff
by
happens.
the support
Edge,
being
now they have-
not touching the ground and much
Yeah.
smaller,
Right.
not thinking.
Right, I understand
So
what you're
that's-
saying,
that's-
it's just that, in cases like this, before you hammer and saw things, just say, hey, I got a little problem here, the approved plan, what do you think? As opposed to, building the house in the wrong place and say, oh, I got a problem.
No, I understand and
Yeah.
heard the horror stories on that.
I do have to say that I'm very impressed that you didn't cut down the tree.
No, we only took down,
They did take a few trees down.
we
Like,
took a few down that
Trimmed a
were on the original drawing for the septic system. And then we actually we redesigned the septic, which went through all the processes to be smaller so that we weren't when we started to dig for that, we found existing roots. So he redesigned that and went through approvals with the Board of Health to make it more concise in a way. And then the other thing that's on the original drawings to these is it was a stairway on the side of the house that there's a note there to remove it, and it's still on this finished drawing. The engineer just never picked it up. And it was just a stairway kind of on the side of the house, half covered, kind of joke and said we pulled up, blew the horn, and it came down.
So what the commission needs to make a determination of, whether this is either a minor or a major amendment.
No, Carl, this is a notice of intent.
It is a notice of intent.
Let's have them refile. I thought it was, to me,
Okay.
it was significant enough.
Then,
But wait a minute, it's like a 4x9 area?
But it's 30 feet from the pond.
Good point. Or joint.
So
let me step back,
Yeah.
then if it's a new notice of intent, then we need to vote whether, we waive the around the pond
Correct.
notification,
Good call.
because that's a requirement,
And the green cards.
and the green
We already
cards.
got 'em.
Oh,
Last-
it's
a
continued, sorry.
continuation.
And that had been on the original drawing, the original for the septic and all of that.
Correct.
That had been, because basically I took the notice of intent that was original, then
Too
copied
original.
it. Yeah,
So Carl's right, you do need a motion to waive the 300-foot notification.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we waive the,
Around the pond.
abutter notification,
Around the pond.
the round the pond abutter notification requirement for 91 Lake Shore Drive.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to waive the 300-foot around the pond notification for 91 Lake Shore Drive. Is there any further discussion? I think because this is a fairly minor situation, and it's not really gonna impact people's views or anything, it probably makes sense to do that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Well, this threw me because the notification here says continued.
Yeah. It opened last month, was continued. So again,
Feet.
I kind of trump the minor, major change, because I felt it was significant enough to not waste the commission's time to have a discussion and just jump right to. And there's also a time frame where he's looking to have a closing and a month delay. So if you said it's major, they just come back next month and we just made a decision.
Well, no, yeah, also says this was a previously approved project,
Yeah.
implying he's got a
Not
permit.
even a year ago. So. And I do know some about this aircraft, just to let you know.
Mhm.
I walk by there all the time. I noticed you lost some pine trees in that heavy wind.
yes. Yep. We'll get them all out of the branches. The tree out front, keep looking at it with that big branch leaning toward the house, but it's hanging in wonderfully, so.
So what is, it's just a regular deck surface with gaps between the
Yes.
boards, et cetera.
Yes.
What kind of, just because we always ask about erosion and, additional, because it's shading the ground underneath of it? Like, what is the kind of ground
When we
underneath?
took the old septic system out and all of that, one of the things that's also on this drawing that's not on yours is that we did put in a way to collect the rainwater, roof rainwater. I've got 1,500, I can hold up to 1,500 gallons underground. It was originally noted to use the old leach pit, and the Board of Health asked us not to. It wasn't a formal thing, they just said, we'd rather you don't. So I spoke with Steve and we came up with basically this design to, and that's out in front of the house.
Yeah. So I think Laura was referencing what the ground is underneath the deck.
Oh.
So
Yes, I
that
am.
was more
So-
related to the
Yeah.
first application.
Because
took
there's
the
typically no
rocks.
vegetation under there to,
Right.
you know,
So we
hold
took the
the.
rocks and we put them on top of the dirt that's under there, and then we put silt screen on top of that. And put the, pieces of concrete to hold that in place, so the water coming through is hitting a silt screen to try to, get rid
Does
of it.
it permeate or is it onto
It
a
will go through
concrete
it.
surface?
We'll go through it.
Yeah. It's not poured, it's pieces.
Oh, I see.
So it's
Okay.
it's
Oh, I
pervious
see.
to water.
Okay.
And it
that's
prevents
great.
erosion. It's hard to do, you have to do it mechanically and with hard fixed material, because you can't do vegetation.
And,
So that
you
does
know,
work.
gravel or whatever is so easily dislodged with a heavy
Yeah.
rainstorm, so
And we
the,
let that sit, we used elephant's feet so that we weren't dealing with pylons and major excavation to kind of keep it down, and we did leave it open and exposed for a long time to let it settle on its own. And we saw rare instances of small troughing. I mean, very, what you'd see on the side of a road per se.
I'm not familiar with elephant's feet. What is that?
Elephant's feet.
I'm not either.
They're a precast support post, concrete. Has a big foot to the bottom, and they taper up to the top. They have
Yeah.
a fixture that gets put on the top of it, and that's where the structural members go, as opposed to digging out and pouring a concrete
Oh,
foundation.
Oh, I see,
Or-
okay.
Did the building inspector approve those?
Yes, yep. Yeah, we
So
were.
instead of
I-
a sonotube or whatever, a dug-in sonotube?
Yeah,
okay.
these go in, they go in with crushed stone under them.
Okay.
Or
Yeah, I-
precast, it's like a precast sonotube.
I did spend quite a bit of time with Les on this. I actually had, the job I did before this, the project I did was in Amesbury, 2 doors down from his house. And he's friends with my sister who lives on the street, so he was very aware of what we were doing and how we were doing it, because he saw it going up down the street from his house.
So you feel that that the erosion under the deck has been taken care of? Because that's always been a concern of ours.
Ours too.
So I see on the plan here, down near the water, if I have this, my orientation, it says deck to be repaired.
That was, which, are you on D2 or D3?
I'm on D1,
D1.
I'm right on the water. There's existing deck and there's a block above it that shows a deck.
Oh, the float, yes, that was to be repaired, and it had been. That was under all done under the original, if you will.
Yeah, that was under the approved order of conditions from the
And basically,
2017.
we did
Well, yeah, I'm
nothing
just
to
trying,
that.
I'm trying not to confuse what was done versus what wasn't done and where we are right now.
That was, we actually used the original and just put a PVC deck on it, top on it. Fixed what needed to be fixed. We didn't disturb any of the other parts of it. That pit that's marked there, that's what this replaces. That system with the, and I figured it for a 50-year storm, so it should cover it.
They happen every week now.
Yeah, well, that's true,
The
but
entire month of March
Yeah.
was a
Yeah, I
50-year
think,
storm.
yeah, you wanna calculate for at least 100, if you can.
Right, so
I think
So
we're
this
probably over that, to
these
be
are
honest.
in,
Because we're 12 feet long, 4 foot wide, and 5 foot deep. That's 1,500 gallons,
We can do that.
30 by,
Dual purpose state
40 by
doesn't need to
20.
do it.
So at this point, everything is already built.
yes.
So everything is finished, built.
This is kind of permission after the fact,
Yeah.
as far as the modification.
Well, that's why it's kind of confusing, because we hadn't issued the order, and we've got a new, we've got a new notice of intent without issuing the order for the old one. So normally we would
Well, by the way, I have both COCs here signed too.
So it's just a little confusing
It's
the way we're
very
doing this.
confusing, yeah.
And why did you, oh, in case we determined it was, okay, all right, got it.
If it's approved, you can
Well, I
approve
mean,
it
the,
and
the
close it
normal,
out.
the normal process would be
Yeah.
for him to come in, we would vote whether it's major or minor.
Exactly.
And then he would then file the NOS. So we've kind of short-circuited a little bit to kind of jump
Yep.
into the new notice of intent. I
To
guess,
save time.
The real, I guess what I'm saying is from the original drawing, we never intended to do what was there.
Mhm.
You know, the engineer, so it kind of got, I guess, put forward that we were gonna build exactly what was there, and we couldn't do it because of the property lines and all of that. And, basically, what is there now has much smaller footprint in total and what is on the ground and covered than what the old one had.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an improvement in a
Yeah.
lot of ways.
if there are no more questions at the moment, I'm gonna open it up to if any abutters have any questions or concerns, comments. I'm gonna open this hearing up to abutters. If you would like to speak or say something, please identify yourself for the record. You don't have to, but I give you the floor if you would like to say something.
Hi, 97 Lakeshore Drive, Irene O'Brien. I'm part of the Beach Association. Was a survey done of where the line mark is between the beach property and this house, the new deck that now aligning on the beach property?
So there was one done, and that's typically the building inspector evaluates property boundaries as far as off setbacks to
Can you
that.
show us how far the
I-
deck is to the beach property?
So the plan does show it was surveyed. That's not really a Conservation Commission issue, although our plans show it.
Yep.
That question really belongs with the building inspector to
Right, I did call
assess
the
setbacks
building
and stuff.
inspector on it quite a while ago.
Yeah, so again, it was surveyed, the original is shown, the as-built showing where it is now, but we don't deal with zoning here, and
Okay.
so I couldn't answer it. I
So-
could guess, but
so
that's
I
not
guess-
appropriate.
So the answer,
Stone wall
the
was
information
put in
does
along-
exist, it's just kind of not under this board per se. but-
I'm sorry. I didn't-
So I guess what he's trying to say, the information does exist, it's just not normally under this board's purview.
Okay, all
But
right.
you should be able to get it from the town.
All right, well, what I'm saying is that the stone wall that's there looks like it's now part of this house property, it's actually the beach property. The porch goes down alongside the beach property, it's on the beach property, it's not, it's over it.
We
The
built that-
cantilever, the original foundation is out an extra 3 feet from where it was in the beginning, and then cantilevered out another 3 feet, which the next door neighbor on the other side used to be able to see over to the playground and can't see there anymore. So we just had questions like that.
Yeah, so those would all be building department, building inspector. Les can help you if you just call
George
him.
Hilton, 99 Lake Shore. I'm just going back to what she says. I understand that this is a building department thing, but if you're okaying something on the deck, I'd just like to know, I'll trust whatever you tell me. Is that deck overlapping our property
No,
or not?
we actually built that stone wall in talking with the gentleman across the street, because it was, that berm was eroding even under the deck, was around the tree. That was definitely over, and I understand there was a problem. I mean, I understand there was a lot of problems with this house years ago.
Absolutely.
And the people they were tenants and they built it over it and they wouldn't move it and whatever. That's why we pulled it back. When we took that back, it had been washed out underneath. And so speaking, I'm terrible with names and I apologize, but the gentleman right across the street, he came over and we talked about taking the stones, much of them were under the old deck, and doing that and sloping it back, just so it wouldn't erode again.
So are you saying it's not cantilevered over that beach property?
No, it's not. It's about 3 feet back. The line is just about the middle of the tree.
So I want to be clear, obviously. Clear.
So that's that's a building department zoning. The plans we show right now do not show crossing the property boundary.
That's what I need to know.
It does not show it. Now, if there's engineering mistakes or surveying, or that is the building department's zoning board of appeals jurisdiction. It has nothing to do with this commission, because we don't look at those details. We have no regulations associated with it.
Right, but I just don't wanna condone, in other words,
Correct.
that we approve something that was built on somebody else's
I mean,
property.
so this has already been
Can
built.
we
Les
say-
supported, Les already reviewed this for zoning, and it passed.
If
and
they've
it
signed
passed.
off on it, I mean,
I'm sorry,
Yes.
who-
So the,
who
the buil-
reviewed it
the
for
building
zoning?
inspector reviewed this, approved it, inspected it, and signed off on everything. If there are zoning-related issues, it should be brought to him before, during, and after. It has nothing to do with this
So
board.
do
And
we
does
hold
that
off?
nullify this?
No, we're totally separate. Boards approve stuff all the time that doesn't meet other boards' regulations.
But if they find against them, if the ZBA finds against them,
This is the truth.
what happens to this?
they'd have to come back to us for.
Only if it changes. Only if there's a major modification. So say they determine that it is, they just cut off a foot off the deck and it gets smaller. They don't have to go back to the commission for modification because it's made it smaller.
Okay. So we can just deal with this as a purely conservation issue?
Correct.
We don't need to be mixed up with all this?
Now, I'm aware of these issues being brought up right now. Monday morning, first thing I do is go talk to Les.
Due diligence, we should, if it's brought to our attention.
I'll follow
The
through.
appropriate department.
Right.
I'll follow through with it as a department head,
We-
but
we
as a
have-
commission, it's not relevant.
We also have to go, if other departments have signed off on it, it's not our obligation to challenge and say, you shouldn't have signed off on that. I mean, we have to go by,
Right.
our rules and regulations and other departments, their rules
Trying
and
to find
regulations.
pictures, but Les did, I mean, it was done with his direction right from the beginning.
I'm sorry, who's less?
Building inspector.
Building inspector came out, I mean, when we started to take this apart, we got him involved with the best way to do
And
it.
also keep in mind, this is just for an extension on this deck that was not permitted in the original order. Everything we're talking about right now is old history over a deck that was permitted a year ago. We're here for a very small additional section that I was concerned about.
So, I
And this
mean,
part is not
It's not anywhere we're
influenced
talking
by
about.
the property line, is going towards the pond, not
so
the
we
property
can approve,
line.
we can approve this change, but it doesn't nullify the concerns of the neighbors, and they
Yes.
should contact the
Right.
building
Exactly.
departments to find out, to verify that
Will
there
you
is
do
not
that as well?
And the
another
ZBA.
issue.
Will you do that
Yes.
as
Yeah,
well?
yeah.
Okay. So Steve will,
I'll follow up with it also.
he'll follow up on that as well.
May I say something?
Sure, please identify yourself.
I somewhere, I live across the street. I talked
So didn't you-
What's the address, sir?
90 Lakeshore Drive.
Thank you, sir.
Prior to him taking over the property, the tenants that were in there, it was a real mess with them and so forth. So we had a lot of issues with them, and one of the things I actually did is I filed a zoning violation because of that deck, because where it was built, for a number of reasons. Not your deck, the
Right.
existing deck.
Right.
And when we first talked about, the concern was, visually, when you look down that, you look down the boat ramp there, visually, you just see, okay, the left side of the boat ramp from over is, it looks like it's his property. Well, from the drawings that I've seen that he's provided, it's really, the beach property is about 5 feet over, and when the old town, Jay, he's no longer here,
Assessor?
the assessor, yeah, I actually had him come out with me and measure it up. So, what I was confused at first, because I did go to the Board of Health meeting for the septic, one of my concerns was, there's always been a gray area on where these property lines were. Okay, so I'm a builder myself, so usually, most of the times, I would see a stamped engineer drawing. There was no stamped engineer drawing at that time. There was drawings by the septic designer, but nothing stamped, just like with a pin in the ground, very distinct, okay? All right, so then I was fine with that. Then the existing deck that's there, now I live right across the street from it. The existing deck that was there, that he tore down, call it a deck? It's not really a deck, I mean, it was basically wood on the ground. No supports, nothing like that, no permit pulled to build it. The tenant did it, he doesn't even own the house, so it was just kind of slapped together. So what we see there now, it is considerably bigger than what was there. I mean, there was no railings before, now there's railings going right across. It blocks a little bit of our view from when I come out my front door. But one of my concerns was, I always thought that because that deck never really had a permit, was kind of sitting on the ground, wasn't really structured as a deck, that would almost have to abide by a setback of 10 feet off the side from the property line. Which, when you look at that deck now, it's right on the property line, right on the edge. So, that was really,
Yeah, and again, that's kind of under a different board normally than, we're looking at it from the distance from the pond and such. So I understand your concern, so you definitely need to probably contact the building departments we have that discussion.
Yeah. And I was just really, today I was just more concerned about a set of stairs weren't gonna go on the right side there. I know he has a set of stairs in the back. That was really my concern from here. Just don't wanna see a set of stairs going off to the side there. Otherwise than that, she's done an incredible job. He's basically changed the look of the neighborhood with how much he's ramped up the house. The house looks great, and you know, I'm really hoping that a nice family moves in there because for us,
couple.
it was a nightmare for 10 years since we were there.
They are a nice couple.
Yeah, the old owner personally had us clean the place out. We took 10 dumpsters of trash out of that place. That's how much more that was in there. So, I guess that's really all I have to say here.
There's studs, sheathing, and some flooring, on the some roof left from the original. We took everything off the outside, gutted everything out of the inside. The people that had it before were raising snake food. And it was all over the place.
Wait, they were raising snake food? meaning-
Snake and.
Rats?
Yeah, and exotic animal food, live.
Crickets?
They were
I
raising
guess
them.
so.
They were
They were raising them and selling them.
Yeah,
So mice and rats and
Seriously.
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
That must have
the
smelled
place was,
delightful.
There's a,
Yes, ma'am.
Irene O'Brien, 97 Lakeshore Drive. Like I said, I walk down there all the time, and from a conservation point of view, the whole front yard is saturated. Why is that? The front yard is saturated. The water is not, it's
To the
right where
street?
your septic is, and actually, you can see all the rivets where cars have pulled in now into that gravel area. It's gone down. It has gone down.
well, it's
And
just
then when
settling, that's
when
the
I went-
impact.
Well, when I went for a tour to the house, excuse me, but I went for a tour, I went in through, to go down to the basement, you have to go out and back down and down underneath. And the seepage is coming up from the ground into the back wall that's setting the street. And at one point, there was a river on the left-hand side. There's one on the right going down, there was one on the left, which it hasn't been. But I think when he dug when they put in the septic, it has shifted the water, because the neighbor on the next door has water in the basement, and she's lived there for 70 years and has never had water in her basement before. So we're concerned about that too, the way the flow, because you know, when water, it's gonna find a different place to move to when it's moved out.
The neighbor across the street right now has a sub pump that's been going off for 4 days, and the water's going across the street.
Yeah.
Which it hasn't happened in 2 years,
Yeah.
but it usually, their sub pump's going off all the time. It's not even raining out, it's sunny out, it's just, I think they have 3 or 4 pumps, so.
Well, you have
water's going
infiltration
right
for a number of days after a heavy rainstorm. It doesn't immediately soak in. I mean,
and Monday was impossible rain.
Very
So
wet.
I think to those concerns, I mean, that's in an area that was discussed, closed out at a previous hearing that's not relevant to this hearing. It's also outside of our jurisdiction. You know, areas settle, water change, water tables change. Again, if it's directly relevant to the application in front of us, I think we should see it through a bit, but it's had its time to be
Have
discussed.
you been out to the site recently?
I have.
What does front yard look like?
I think it's just new dirt. What was there before was compacted, it'd been there for 50 years.
so
It's-
it was.
it's new
it was-
dirt
it
that's
was- It
settling.
was dug up basically and it's resettling.
Yeah, I mean, new construction always has new rivulets falling, erosion, a whole, 2 5-gallon buckets of dirt wash away in one night. That doesn't mean it's a wetland or it's a problem, it just means it's new soil that wasn't stabilized properly. I see it as just soil settling after a major construction project.
and
I
the,
think their concern is that the water table or the infiltration has been
Altered.
altered.
And it,
Right.
and it might have by, say, more impervious material, or the septic system's flowing differently. We don't have regulations related to that. It's out of our jurisdiction
As I
and it's more
recall,
water
the
table.
The original septic, or probably didn't even have a septic, it probably had just a leach
Yeah.
pit, was in probably complete failure. So you probably had leach material going into the pond.
it was a steel drum to a,
5-gallon drum, that's what they used
Yeah,
to do
and then
around the
it had,
pond 50 years ago.
kind of an odd, it wasn't cement blocks, but it was kind of set up, which was why we didn't use that old pit as the area. One of the reasons that the lawn in the front is the way it is it was done very late in the year, and we didn't get grass, we got grass seed down, but it really didn't have the weather to put the roots down that would have been nice.
But if,
So do you feel that would mitigate some of the concerns that they have if you work on that again this spring?
Well, I kind of found the opposite, not questioning what anybody's saying, but we had water in the basement, and now we don't. And we always took it that the water in the basement was because the front lawn was dished toward the foundation, and now the whole yard's been pitched back slightly, like the driveway toward the street.
So it's going towards other
So,
people's houses
correct.
now
So that-
instead
that's-
of the
it-
basement of this
It
house?
certainly could be a concern. In other words, that you have a X quantity of water hitting that area. If it gets redirected away from your basement, it could go into somebody else's basement.
Well, we're talking, the driveway pitches an inch from the house and back.
But the underground flow may have been changed too, as it infiltrates.
We
in.
found the water table when we dug for that tank. And that was late summer. It isn't very far down.
That's in the front yard by the pond though, which is probably 5 or 6 feet lower.
No, this is the one that we actually did at
In the front?
at the street,
Okay,
yeah.
interesting.
Because they went down and I don't,
But, all these are tiny little lots, so, you don't need to do a lot to alter the water tables
went
and
down
water
6 inches.
flow.
they got a little lower than 6 inches below that tank to put the crushed stone in and
You
it
got,
was.
what,
it
a
was
6,190 square foot lot, correct? According to
You're
this.
probably right, yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Are you still working out there?
No,
Oh, so
Oh,
it's
the house.
all finished and all
it's all
buttoned
fin,
up?
yeah, I've got a couple of touch-ups. We're supposed to pass next week. It's been kind of a long road with a lot of different things. I had a buyer that added a lot to the interior and then
Okay.
So in a
couldn't
sense,
finish the buy.
that issue isn't really before us, but it should be looked at or brought up to
Yeah.
the Board of Health,
Yeah.
since they approved the septic. So if the
Mhm.
water flow has
Yep.
changed as a result of that septic, it's a Board of Health issue too.
And I'm wondering how much settling has, although you say it used to be in a bowl,
Well, it's just,
and
there
now
were,
it's
there were
filled in.
trees in the front yard that have been taken down, stumps that have been taken out.
Right.
I mean, the whole property was a disaster.
Well, that's another thing. Trees and their
That they
roots,
may
they
not have
suck
been
it.
viable. So
So-
is it within our ability to ask that the Board of Health have a look at that?
I can. I mean, I'm gonna talk to.
And he
I'm
can,
gonna
as,
talk to the
as,
building
as,
inspector.
as our staff, it still doesn't necessarily shouldn't impact our ability to vote on this, but it
That area's
doesn't
out
mean
of
we
our
can't
jurisdiction.
notify our other departments to have them look at this to ensure it's not a problem. In other words, that it's not built on somebody else's property, that it's not causing flooding on someone else's property as well.
Mhm. I don't, what are the I seem to remember something about discharging water onto
Yeah,
someone
you
else's
can't,
property.
you can't do that
You
legally.
can't.
Causes a hardship.
Discharging, I think,
who's-
that's a different.
You can't
that's a different
cause,
thing.
Right, that
your,
is-
your
that was the
project,
wrong
your
word.
project cannot cause, water to discharge off of your property onto somebody else's property.
So who would that be, who's?
There's no town department. It's kind of like almost a civil action against each other. We don't deal with
Well,
water
it
crossing. I
can-
mean,
Well, where
it's a
could they
fine
go?
line.
Where
It can
where
tie
could
into the
these neighbors
stormwater
go
stuff.
to work this out?
You can tie into the stormwater stuff.
I mean, we've taken and put gutters on both sides of that roof, and those gutters are directed to a 1,500 gallon
Yeah,
uh,
drywall facility.
drywall system with an overflow to take care of that
Where
water.
is that? In the back of the house, in
Closer
the
to the
front of
pond.
the house,
Right here.
closer to the pond? So
Right.
that wouldn't have any effect
Not
on
Right.
their
But
experience.
it's an overall improvement.
Mhm,
If you
yeah,
want to look at improvements to the stormwater on the
I mean,
property.
this, oh, you have the picture? I mean, there's a picture of what we did. This is the system. I can pass it around.
I'm sure that the roof discharge is, that was what we were looking at, is an improvement, but the pitch of the front yard seems to be different, which is causing water to behave
And,
differently than it did.
Is there currently, was there grass after the construction? You don't have grass, correct?
Yes, I do, but I'm saying it didn't get the time to put roots way
Right, So
down.
that obviously impacts the ability of, the grass isn't soaking up as much,
And stabilizing it.
Right.
stabilizing
And-
rainwater coming in
Yeah.
as it was
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
so it tends to run off and.
Because it's immature and not established. et
And
cetera.
we are to the elevations that this engineered drawing calls for. I won't say every bit of it is, because it is lumpy and whatever,
Yeah.
I
but,
mean, it was built to plan.
Thank you.
It was built to plan.
and the engineer did come out, certify everything, and then met, I don't know if you, I think the
I don't
inspector
think,
from the Board of Health came out when TW was putting it in to see, I think she came 3 times.
Yeah.
To see it going in, and then the engineer that drew all this came out and spent quite a bit of time and certified, I don't have it with me, but certified it to the Board of Health that it was as designed. And I, you know, they signed off on it,
Right.
on the thing, so,
Looks like very sandy soil too.
I'm just wondering if something planted there could, pull up some of that water that they're talking about.
Well,
From the septic system,
you
though.
indicated that a couple trees went down.
yeah, I mean, also keep in mind, this is the septic system.
No, what I'm driving at
Oh,
is, I
the
mean,
water.
caliber of trees, I mean, a full-size mature tree can suck up hundreds
Yeah.
of gallons
Yeah.
a day.
I mean, there's 15 different things that contributed to
Right.
it. Honestly, it's new soil. You're looking at one very small window saying it's wet or something changed. It's been a very wet spring. It's out of our jurisdiction. It's related to a project that's already been approved.
Yeah,
I mean, I
I have,
and the
I have no
tree, the
problem
tree
with this
was on the
essen-
engineered drawings to be taken down.
I have no
Right.
problem
It's all
with this.
approved.
And I love that you kept the tree. I'm just trying to brainstorm in my head ways that something could be done to make everybody happy.
What I think, I have no problem with this, what I think is just that
Gosh,
other
never
boards
works.
should be notified, there
Yeah.
is some concern
They will.
about abutters, and they can investigate that aspect of it.
Yep.
So it's not, go ahead, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, they've done a beautiful job. The house is beautiful, it's not that, I'm not negating that at all. It's an improvement to the street, to the property, he did an excellent job.
Thank you.
But we do have issues with the water and the flow of the water. We got another river on the other side of the lake, one coming down there. And there is I feel it's conservation. I don't know where
I
you
mean,
come from.
those are, so there are some legitimate rivers, perennial river streams to the,
And they're
but,
underground, and I think
I
that
know,
when the
but-
septic was dug, it has created an issue.
but the only one I know of is more back towards downtown has to be 400 feet away from this property.
One ready.
There's
Right
a,
across the street.
okay, but that's not, that might be drainage, but that's not a jurisdictional resource. You can have pipes going under. I know of one down further where it's like a stream, and then the other
There's a
side
stream
that's
there.
just a culvert.
Yeah.
Which one are you talking about?
It comes right down, crosses up over, what's
So you go on the right side of the beach?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just on the, you've been on the beach
Yeah.
on the other side.
yeah.
That's,
No, you refer to it as an intermittent
but,
stream.
yeah, but I'm just not sure how, what he's doing would impact a stream that's 150 feet away.
Yes, but there was originally a stream running alongside this house, and over the years, it's gotten filled in, and there's 2 culverts now on
Okay.
each side, drain fills. And I think when it got dug, it diverted the water flow, is what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm not familiar with those culverts, so
Okay.
I apologize for not being.
Well, maybe you could go out, go and take a look.
Can you help?
I'll check out. I never looked that side because it's
You know
not
what I
outside the
mean,
If you
resource.
drove down that street today, you'd see the water running right across the street.
Yeah, I guess it's just hard to
This sounds like it might be a
say.
street issue rather than a.
I was gonna say,
There is a
house
catch
issue.
basin on the street in front of the driveway, and that pipe does go back across the street to the catch basin, and the drainage pipe, the
dumps out into the pond.
is, I don't know where it
To be,
dumps out, but it.
Down further,
So
yeah.
the,
Multi-departmental
yeah,
issue here.
the catch basin on 91 side of the street, the pipe goes to the catch basin on the other side.
So
It
that's
does
just-
not come this way.
So we're talking stormwater off the road.
Yes.
You guys didn't hit any pipes while you're digging the
No,
septic system
that's
that
one of
tapped
the
into that.
concerns that we originally had, and it
Okay.
doesn't, it actually
So-
goes back across.
So that, I don't know if that satisfies your concerns as far as, so there's some stormwater piping that handles the water that hits the road and where it goes,
I know that,
and they were trying to avoid hitting it.
right. And I can tell you that property is pitched more towards their foundation now than it was before, too.
Correct.
I mean, the biggest concern for water would be his property.
Right,
I mean,
his property.
There's no houses to the right of him.
Yeah, the driveway went up a little bit because of the catch basin at the end, so that the street water went into the catch basin, didn't come across the driveway and make its way to the pond.
So I'll talk to Peter Durkee about
Okay.
the water off the
Thank
street, Les, building department about the zoning issues, and Deb, Board of Health regarding, something.
Can I just add one more thing? Sorry. I've been told for years that the property line of the beach is the center of the telephone pole down. And if you line yourself up with that telephone pole, you're looking at the deck fencing. So to me, that's over on the beach property.
Has the telephone pole been replaced?
I have no idea.
That'd be,
Yeah, and again, that's
that's
kind
a
of another,
possibility.
Yeah.
definitely another board that would have to give us
Yeah.
that
That was the last
information,
one.
so.
Oh, I'll talk to Deb, Board of Health, about the front yard septic system being a little squishy, if there's any issues associated with.
I mean, you know, since these are tight properties, I mean, you have to, there's more concerns, obviously, because there's less wiggle room. You can't say, well, it's a couple feet off, nobody really cares. A couple feet in these small lots matters, so.
I mean, for us, because we pay for
We pay
the
the taxes
taxes and
for the
everything,
beach.
so the new owner that goes there visually is gonna assume that that 5 feet to the rock wall is theirs.
It's not.
And we have talked to them about potentially putting a fence up there to, you know, show define the line.
Pond Association.
Mhm.
So what are we
So-
trying to do?
So, you know, we still have a notice of intent in front of us, and we can't vote on this, you know, because we're looking at the deck issue. These are other things that are brought up that are
Right.
important, but they're actually, other boards need to be involved too. You know, we can't speak on behalf of
Okay, so we
ZBA, planning.
So I have my.
continue, or?
No, again, my recommendation is to approve the project. All the other issues are
Those
not
other
conservation
boards can
related.
act independently of
Okay,
us.
all right.
I'll follow up with them on Monday, and
All
they'll
right.
do their jobs, you know, and I'm just recommending the commission, again, pay attention to the concerns, but focus on what your jobs is, which is,
As far as the issues that we're concerned with, it's all fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with a deck, you know.
Yeah.
These other things, I mean, as I said, I certainly hear the other residents here and
Yeah.
neighbors, abutters, and it is important, but, you know, I can't step on everyone else's jurisdiction. I'll entertain a motion, if anyone wants to make one. And, let's see, we have a DEP number, we have,
came in today,
okay.
literally.
Literally.
And we've got the green cards.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the NOI 491 Lakeshore Drive, DP 1610855, GCC 2018-01.
Second?
We have a motion and it's and seconded to approve the notice of intent for 91 Lake Shore Drive, DEP 161-0855. Is there any further discussion? And again, I think we would not approve the line. You would
Without
make an amendment.
approving the wetland line as I don't.
Re-motioned?
see them. Yes.
Re-seconded. Can I re-second?
Yes, you can.
Okay,
We have a
re-second.
motion and it's reseconded to approve the NOI for 91 Lake Shore Drive, not approving the wetland line. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, all abstaining. I'll entertain a motion to close the NOI for 91 Lake Shore.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the NOI for 91 Lakeshore Drive, DEP number 161-0855.
I'll second.
We have a motion and it's been seconded to close the notice of intent for 91 Lake Shore Drive. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, all abstaining. Thank you.
I'll give you a call Monday to pick up everything, because I presume you're gonna wanna get it to your lawyer, or get it registered pretty quickly.
So I'll give you this. I did not put the number on it. I didn't know if you did it in a color or whatever. This is what went to the DEP.
Okay, this is the most recent.
Planning this morning,
Awesome, thank you, sir.
which
Cool.
was,
Under the lighting.
well,
No idea.
a wrong number got on the file. I actually spoke with Steve at the beginning of this week and said, "Do we have everything? Everything's fine?" Yes. And yesterday morning I called it the wrong number.
I just saw a number there, presumed it was the right one. You
It was for
don't check
another
stuff like
project
that.
here, so
Yeah.
I went to the
This
DEP
never
yesterday morning,
happens.
went over the whole thing with one gentleman. He said, "Come back tomorrow morning." I went back this morning. He wasn't there, so I had to do it with another.
Dear.
But it was just a. It was just a.
Just an
this-
administrative
Yeah,
snafu.
yeah, but you can imagine with this, I had sent it in 8 weeks ago. They cashed the check, I mean, there was a,
And that was the DEP that gave you the wrong number?
I don't know,
I think it was the
It just
lawyer.
happened.
It was the lawyer that did the COC and the paperwork. 'cause
Oh.
It was way
because
off.
I hadn't gotten a copy of a number to put it on there. So,
So I think we're still on
These
camera
things happen.
and we gotta move along.
okay, do you want me to?
I'll take
I'm
that.
gonna leave that with you.
Yep.
That,
All right.
that is the latest and greatest.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all very much, appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, what other business do we have? We've done our 2 hearings, and we have any bills to pay?
A bunch of bills.
We always have bills.
So,
We still have some business to conduct. Yeah, we're still on camera, we still have a meeting here.
so we have 2 electric bills for Camp Dennison. So the next 10 of them are Camp Dennison. 2 electric bills for Camp Dennison totaling a little over $300. Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Water department, $80. Oil for pretty much the season, roughly $3,000
For oil?
for the caretaker's lodge.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of oil for a
Holy
very
crap,
small
how big is that? How
For
big
a-
is this
for a-
place?
400 square foot apartment.
It also does the Smokies Den, that lower area. When they have
Oh,
events,
yeah,
they get
right,
it cooking
okay.
down there
They
too.
meet down
And a
there all the
sauna
time.
and a.
Georgetown Building Supply, Amesbury Building Supply, roughly $40. Napa Hardware,
When are they gonna go
roughly
for, when are they gonna
25.
go for solar?
Camp Don Anderson, $256. And some legal bills for our recent legal activities, which is almost $5,000. And the municipal light department for Camp Dennison, one of the outbuildings, $73. The only unusual bill is the legal bill. We never really deal with legal stuff for the most part. But it's what it is. And that's all I have for bills.
Any questions on the bills? Nope. I'll entertain a motion to pay the bills,
Mr. Chairman, let's pay the bills,
as read by
As
Steve.
read by Steve.
as read by Steve.
We have a motion, and is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second, been seconded to pay the bills as read by Steve. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries.
Carl, this is just the minutes for you to sign, and then you can hand that one back.
And do we have any other business?
That's all I have for business at this time. I'm just gonna hand around some documents that you guys approved just now. So, again, it's a little bit unusual. So, the 91 Lake Shore, the 2017, they requested a COC. As at this point, they're in compliance with that. So, we're gonna be issuing the COC from the 2017 application, an order of conditions from tonight, and a COC on the one tonight, because it's for work that's already done.
Yeah, that's why this confused me a little bit.
Yeah, so I should have, I forgot to update you, Carl, on that one before the meeting. That was my fault.
Do you need to make a motion, please? and
Nope,
then-
they're all administrative that you guys already voted on.
Thank you. That's a lot of oil.
The other thing I'm handing around, I only need 4 signatures on this one. We do that, signing some blank order of conditions and COCs, just in case there's ever a mix-up where we miss signing something and it forces a special meeting just to sign it, or running over to the police department. Kind of standard stuff we do every few months. I like to keep it updated with all the commissioners, so sitting around one for each order of conditions, state and local, and a certification of compliance for state and local. And Laura, you can, at the end of these, you can just hand them to me, because we only need 4 signatures when they get to you.
Okay.
And I believe that's it.
Wait, Steve, is that next meeting, May 23rd or the 24th?
23rd. I believe.
Wednesday, I think.
I hope not.
21st is on a Monday, 22nd is on a Tuesday, 23rd is on a Wednesday.
And that's 24th.
That would be very confusing if we had it on Wednesday.
We didn't
It
just
doesn't-
continue
it doesn't-
something to the wrong date, did we?
No, that got
that
continued
was
June 21st.
Okay.
Good catch. You want to work in the, I won't say it, work in the office?
I won't be here that meeting.
You won't. We have nothing on the agenda yet. So.
Yeah, you do. Bruce is on.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You're right. Is that why you're not coming?
No, 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 I'll be in a
I'm
room.
kidding. I know, I'm kidding.
I'll be June what, 24th?
Yeah.
Okay. Short of falling down the stairs, I don't know, a total of 3 times.
So that's all I have, Carl.
Okay, since we complete this, I'll entertain a motion to close.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we close the meeting. We
Second.
adjourn.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to close the April 19th meeting of the Georgetown Conservation Commission. Is there any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining?
Aye.
So motion. Good evening, everyone.